I want every Eagles fan watching this show right now to start paying attention to this player right here. It's Eagles cornerback Isaiah Rodgers, a player who is really rising up the depth chart, turning heads this offseason, and in the spring during OTAs and mandatory minicamp, he performed very, very well, even getting some first-team reps at outside corner opposite of Darius Slay for Vic Fangio's defense. And that's a great sign because last year, as we know, he was suspended due to a gambling suspension in which he laid down more than 100 bets. That's illegal for NFL players to do. Some of those bets were on his own team, but he sat out all year. He paid the punishment. And now he's got a golden opportunity at the cornerback spot, a cornerback room for Philadelphia that is extremely deep. And more on the player here, for those of you not familiar, still only 26 years old. He's always been a smaller corner at 5'10", 176 pounds. He grew up in Tampa, Florida, went to high school there as well. And then for college, he played at the football powerhouse of UMass. I say that tongue-in-cheek sarcastically. Getting sarcasm, a great trait for people, by the way. Drafted in the 6th round in 2020 by the Indianapolis Colts, and he's coming off that gambling suspension. After it was deemed that he was going to be suspended in addition to another teammate and other players, Philadelphia signed him. And of course, it wasn't to the active roster. It was pretty much a sign and stash, hoping that he was going to be reinstated for the 2024 campaign. This offseason, he got reinstated by the National Football League in addition to playing corner, and he primarily plays on the outside. Very limited reps in the slot, despite the lack of size. He also has return experience. Here's what NFL.com had to say about Rodgers pre-draft coming out of UMass for their scouting profile. Slender, ball-hawking cornerback who will need to prove he can make a move from outside into the slot at the next level. So NFL draft evaluators thought that he was going to be a slot guy at the NFL level. He stayed outside. That's a credit to him. Furthermore, he has blazing closing speed on long throws with plus ball skills to play the football and constrict catch space. His twitch and instincts allow him to pounce on top of throws from off man, but his slight frame could be an issue when teams target him with bigger bodies in coverage. He's a plus return man, which adds to his value, but his success could rest upon how he handles a transition inside and whether his body can hold up in a run support. Hasn't been bad against the run, although sometimes he can struggle there because he's a little bit smaller. Sometimes when targeted, he is susceptible to struggling against larger wide receivers. So some of the elements of that scouting report have rung true. Here were his strengths from NFL.com as part of that. Consistent ball production all 4 years. Finished with 11 career picks, including 3 returned for touchdowns. So big playability for Isaiah Rodgers. The plus long speed shows in recovery over the top. Very instinctive and football smart. Anticipates the route break and drives on top of it from man or off man, squeezes the route and the catch space, finds the football with back to the ball, has the kick and punt return talent. And I think that some of the parts of that have also come to fruition here. Ball skills, twitchy athlete, making plays on the football, really confident player, which I think has helped him because he is a little bit smaller. NFL.com on his weaknesses in the pre-draft process. Slightly built and doesn't have much room for additional mass. He's still small. Will get big-bodied in space on occasion. That has happened from time to time in the NFL level. Big targets can elevate and pick the football over the top of him. Gives away valuable early ground on his turn and run. Slow in, coming to balance as an open field tackler, could have issues in holding up in NFL run support. Sometimes against the run, Isaiah Rodgers can struggle a little bit, but he's ended up becoming a pretty talented pro, and we'll take a look at the 2022 numbers coming up here in just a moment, his last year in the NFL, and it's not like he played all that much, but when he was on the field, he was graded very highly analytically by Pro Football Focus. And we're talking about him on today's show because ESPN reporters who cover all 32 teams across the NFL picked one player from each team who has surprised and could play a big role for their teams this upcoming season. Tim McManus is the Eagles beat reporter for ESPN, and this is what he had to say when he picked Isaiah Rodgers. Rodgers was suspended for the entire year last year for violating the league's gambling policy, but has not shown much rust this offseason. He got work at outside corner with the first team, splitting time with second-year corner Kelee Ringo, who has also impressed. Rodgers opened some eyes during an OTA practice in late May when he broke on a short pass from Jalen Hurts, swooped in for the interception. Here's what A.J. Brown had to say about Rodgers. For a guy that has not played football for a year, coming back, he looks like he has been playing nonstop. He's flying around, and he's going to do special stuff for us this year. That's coming from one of the top wide receivers in the National Football League, ladies and gentlemen, and A.J. Brown. And then McManus continued by saying, it will be a fascinating competition for the starting spot opposite of Darius Slay this summer, with Rodgers, Ringo, and Quinion Mitchell all vying for that spot. All things that we've talked about here on the show. The cornerback room is deep. The cornerback competition is going to be very good. And can this man start opposite of Darius Slay? Well, if he plays like he did in 2022, the answer might very well be yes. And that's why you have to start paying attention right now, because we always have great foresight on this program. Pro Football Focus overall grade back in 2022 of 82.1. That was top 20 among cornerbacks. Pro Football Focus run defense. Remember the NFL.com scouting report in saying that he could struggle playing on the outside and against the run? He could check off both of those boxes. A coverage grade of 81.5, a passer rating allowed of 106.3. That's a little bit concerning, and that has to do with maybe some of the bigger wide receivers having their way with Isaiah Rodgers, and then the coverage snaps at 283. So not the largest sample size. Can he become a starter? If not, if this is one of your backups, this is a great situation for the Eagles here, because they did not have depth or quality play at the cornerback position last year. We saw how it cost this Eagles secondary. This year, though, that could all change. Will Rodgers start? That's the big question, and a poll question here that I want you to answer. S for start or B for backup? Kelee Ringo, Quinion Mitchell, Isaiah Rodgers, they're going to be competing to start opposite of Big Play Slay. Before we hop on out of here, hope everybody's having a great weekend. Make sure you give me a follow. I'm on X at Chase_Senior, Instagram at Chase_Senior, both social media pages popping right now. I put out a lot of short form content covering the entire National Football League, including the Birds. I cover NBA, college football. I'm doing it all because you can't be a one-way stiff out on these streets.